providing help is with your staff to get comfortable with these techniques. Not only is going to help with patient care, but it's going to help with the way in which communication occurs in your own office. You really can't build a team unless everybody on that team feels respected and knows that their needs and aspirations are part of the planning of the way the office works. So that these are tools not just to take care of people with mental health problems, but they're really basic communication tools. As physicians, we come from a culture where we were used to ordering things and leaving the floor. That's not the way teams work anymore, and particularly in the office. You really have to get everybody on board, and with all the different responsibilities being put on our desks right now, anybody on the team who can help me out with that is a real asset. But in order to activate them, I need to take into account all of these different parts of what communication means. So, I often end the day thinking, why won't my patients do what I tell them? Why won't my staff do what I tell them? And it's really the wrong question. Giving advice and orders just isn't good enough. We really have to ask a different question, which is, how can I help my patient, my staff member to reach their goals? Because they're here for a reason. They're working in my office, probably getting paid less than they can get somewhere else. My patients have made it a point to come in spite of their work and care responsibilities, in spite of having to take 2 buses to get to me. They're there for a reason as well. I need to make sure I start with their needs, and that's how I begin to get them involved in making some changes in their lives. We're going to talk about community engagement at the next module in September. Just talking about what goes on in the office today. There is a good deal known about what patients believe their own obstacles to care are in the next slide. We actually regularly make phone calls to people with lapsed care to try to find out why they haven't come back in. That's a good thing to do in your practice. What we found is about a little over half of them, just as from the phone call itself, are ready to make a follow-up appointment and get re-engaged in care. So not only do you find out what the obstacles are, but you also show people that you really do care about them. We also found that when we heard so much about transportation, about co-pays, about the cost of medications, that we could begin to help people out with those things as part of re-engaging them in care. The next slide is an overwhelming list, but it's the real world. There are a lot of obstacles to care, and what you and your team need to do, preferably with some of your patients in your practice, is to begin to set some priorities on which of these things should we be working on, and which are the ones that are going to do the most for helping our patients take better care of themselves. Clearly, having approaches to behavioral health are one of the ways that have been shown to increase patient engagement a great deal. Well, we talked about looking for opportunities. When you think about patient engagement, the question is, well, when does that happen during a visit? We like to take some of the dead time either in the reception area or in the exam room when patients are waiting, instead of them reading a golf magazine. They could be giving us some information about just what their concerns are, why are they here today. They could be answering some standard questions that we need to put into our record in any case about their underlying chronic diseases. They could be telling us something about their behavior. And when we ask the question about their stress level, we can throw in the 2-question screen. Do you have little interest or pleasure in doing things? Are you feeling down, depressed, or hopeless? Those are easy questions to ask once you've asked people about their stress. We usually don't lead with the question about depression. People find that a difficult one to respond to for various reasons, but everybody's willing to share with you about their stress. The other obvious opportunity for patient engagement is that moment after the physician leaves the room. We have a staff member come in, review the computer-generated clinical summary, and find out whether patients have the time to talk about that, explore with them what they heard from their visit so far, and not what did the doctor tell you to do, but what is the doctor recommending? To, remind patients that these are decisions they have to make and understand. Let's look at the visit summary together to review the doctor's suggestions. And then most importantly, based on today's visit, what could you see yourself doing? In terms of what you learned today, what concerns you the most? What are the next steps that you plan to take? When you look at that get feedback group of questions, you ask yourself, how could anybody leave the office without asking those questions? And finally, you can ask, what kind of help might you need? Again, patients experiencing these difficulties, we're there to help, but they have to be the active person. And these kind of questions get them involved, and they help us understand what their intent is. I mean, we know very well that 30% of our prescriptions end up in the garbage can. And that goes for our orders and our referrals as well. We have to really engage people in making a decision about what they're going to do, and then after the visit, follow up with them for critical changes in behavior that to make sure that they've really occurred.